A small note before we begin. This review contains partial information about part of the plot of The Last of Us. I consider it hard to discuss Left Behind without it, therefore please consider this a spoiler warning for The Last of Us. It's over 3 years ago, at time of writing, that I reviewed The Last of Us, Naughty Dog's phenomenal action horror concerning a post-apocalyptic America left all but destroyed in the wake of a fungal zombie infection, and the people who inhabit that world. Chief among them are Joel and Ellie, a grizzled, jaded courier and a young woman secretly immune to the fungal infection that plagues the land, whom the former is tasked with safely delivering to the Fireflies, a militant underground group. Their journey takes them across the US over the course of a year, during which the pair form an unlikely father-daughter style bond, and in the process of this happening, we find ourselves subjected to a frankly harrowing examination of the brutality of the human condition when exposed to the worst possible stimuli. During the game, we learn a lot about Joel, both in terms of who he is now, but also of the person he was back before everything went to pot. We see a lot of Ellie as well, naturally, but her past is largely left as a gap in proceedings. We get a brief mention of a Riley, but otherwise Ellie steers clear of what is clearly a painful moment in her life. That is, until Left Behind. You're listening to the almighty Backlog. I'm Ellie, and today's review is on Left Behind, an expansion for The Last of Us. Available for PS3, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, this review is based on the PS4 version. Originally released in February of 2014, developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony. It's an action-adventure/horror game, and How Long to Beat has an average playtime of about 3 hours. One of the most powerful sequences in The Last of Us comes just after the halfway point. At this point of the game, there is an uncharacteristically bright feel to things. It's just turned fall, the gold leaves tumbling gently down in the breeze. Across the previous months, Joel and Ellie have faced constant and brutal hardships against both infected and survivors alike, but at this moment, things seem to be going well. They've not long left a friendly settlement with renewed direction and purpose, and the relationship between them has begun to soften. On horseback, they pick their way through ramshackle tents and long discarded cars until they come across an abandoned university campus. The section of the game that follows is one of The Last of Us's best. At first, their hope and optimism seems like it'll carry them through. The university shows signs of having been fortified and lived in, and although there are infected in its halls, the signs still point toward the Fireflies having been there. However, the mood shifts to sour despondency as it becomes clear that they aren't there anymore, and that the ransacked halls hold no clues as to why they'd left or what they'd been researching. Finally, all the good vibes give way to intense, vivid action as the duo are attacked by hunters that had been stalking them, culminating in a bitter firefight across the corridors and classrooms. Ultimately, things come to an unfortunate end as Joel tumbles from a mezzanine and is impaled through the gut by a jagged iron rebar, and as he lapses into unconsciousness, his last sights are of Ellie killing their attackers before frantically scrambling to help her now prone and stilling guardian. When the game resumes, it is the dead of winter, and for the first time, we're in control of Ellie. The initial question is whether or not Joel has died, a likely outcome given what happened to him and the game's general ethos. That particular worry doesn't last long. It's revealed Ellie has been safeguarding him, ranging far and wide to scavenge and hunt down food, bindings and medicine to try and save his life. The section itself is terrifying in the best kind of way, as The Last of Us wants us to know that it's not the zombies that are the scariest thing in its setting, but it's people, driven to extremes. It's in this moment of vulnerability that Left Behind begins. It's important that this is the point in the game where Left Behind is set. Where The Last of Us's primary character is Joel and his growth, Left Behind is concerned with Ellie and what made her the way she is. It uses both time and setting expertly, juxtaposing a glimpse into Ellie's past against her enforced care of Joel in the present day, using both to explain who she is at the beginning of the game and why she acts the way she does at this point. Both halves of Left Behind take place in malls. It's telling how these crumbling heartlands of commercial America are used by Ellie. In her flashbacks, it's a silent wonderland replete with attractions and excitement that allow her to try and capture a long-gone sense of playful youth. But in the game's present, she scrambles Joel into one, locking him behind a shutter before frantically filching through the rotting refuse of retail. It's a sequence of events not unfamiliar to any post-apocalyptic media fans and suits the franchise's core mechanic of desperately searching for survival material. You feel especially vulnerable as Ellie at this point is armed with nothing more than a knife, and The Last of Us's world is filled with dangers that, for preference, one deals with at range. While picking your way through the mall, Left Behind does what The Last of Us did so well. It ratchets the tension up until it's all you can feel. Playing as Ellie, just as it is in the base game, feels a lot more stealth-oriented even than Joel's gameplay, but the threats are largely the same. The scenarios it puts her in are just as fraught with peril as anywhere else in The Last of Us's world, but Ellie can't take as much punishment than Joel, and she doesn't have access to the same wealth of items that he had in his inventory. That means while she knows how to craft health packs, molotovs and shrapnel bombs, you need to find the requisite ingredients first. This game isn't especially judicious in giving you them, at least not until the latter half of the expansion, when it reintroduces hunters and starts needing you to sneak through more heavily infected sections of the mall, and it holds that reticence to outfit you with useful items over you, like a brutal and nasty tease. When things do start to get heated, you have to get much more resourceful. Again, because Ellie's inventory is much more limited and you simply don't have the guns or ammo to manage a protracted firefight. That means the expansion encourages both extensive use of stealth and more liberal use of crafted weapons. Especially if you're playing on the harder difficulties, you're going to have to get really adept at luring groups of infected together so that a single well-thrown Molotov can take them all out. There's also a cute idea implemented in later sections that involves both hunters and infected, in that Ellie can orchestrate events such that both factions are in a room together and then they will immediately set upon one another, allowing you to sometimes either wait the ensuing fight out and pick off the few survivors, or just to absolutely peg it through the horde and get to the next area. The other half of the expansion is set in a flashback to some time before Joel and Ellie meet. We're introduced to a young lass named Riley, who pays a surprise visit to Ellie while she lives in a military home in Boston. The pair have had a big falling out, one exacerbated by Riley's running away to join the independent militia group the Fireflies. By way of an apology, Riley whisks Ellie off to a nearby mall under cover of darkness, where the pair spend one last evening hanging out and goofing around in the long-abandoned shops. It's a desperately sweet idea. It's rare, unique even, to see kids in The Last of Us being, well, kids. The pair have a frankly idyllic night out, running the gamut of silly little things they could do, from raiding the whiskey stash of a former mall denizen, to trying out myriad horror masks in what is blatantly a spirit Halloween, to having a water gun fight, and even mooching around a dead arcade and imagining what it would be like to play a gory Mortal Kombat-esque fighting game. It is, of course, also tinged with tragedy. We already know how this story ends. This is The Last of Us, after all, and Riley is nowhere to be seen in the rest of the game. We know Ellie gets bitten and discovers her immunity. We know that nothing is going to end well, that this wholesome display of childish innocence is a mere flicker of light eclipsed swiftly by the long dark. We know that Ellie is left behind. And yet, that knowledge is precisely why this story works. The present day bit of Left Behind is tense because we don't know what's going to jump out at us, but the flashbacks are tense because we don't know when what is going to happen happens. It puts you on edge in a phenomenal way. Despite the fact that the girls are having a fun time, every noise they make, every second longer that they linger, only makes your muscles tense more. You start straining your ears, waiting to see if you can catch a wayward snarl, and wincing whenever they carelessly break windows or shout or laugh. When the tension finally does break, it's brief, frantic, and terrifying. I think it's telling that in the remake of The Last of Us, Left Behind was upgraded from expansion to inbuilt part of the story. It's short, yes, clocking in at only a couple of hours, give or take, restarting some of the fights, but the quality of the writing and atmosphere is exceptional. Much like the rest of the game to which it belongs, Left Behind is a marvel of character construction and of powerful, weighted tension. The final score is 6 out of 7, excellent. Games that have a touch of brilliance. It might only miss out on being an absolute favourite just, but you should play this. This has been Ellie on the Almighty Backlog. You can support this project by reading the review over on thealmightybacklog.wordpress.com, or by listening to the pod review hosted on RSS and YouTube. Please feel free to follow me over on Mastodon, Blue Sky and/or Backlogged by following the links on the blog. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can do so by donating via PayPal to thealmightybacklog@gmail.com or by hitting the donate button on the blog. Thank you for listening and have a lovely day.